we're back, baby, with another video. I hope everybody enjoyed their Easter Sunday. Hope you enjoyed eating lots of food and avoiding your family. But that is behind us, and now it's time to look towards the future. And in celebration of the Forgotten Beauties of Comics Part 1, getting over 70,000 views and becoming my most viewed video on the channel, finally defeating the previous champ of the top 13 fighters in Tekken, I decided to make Part 3 of this series. Okay, fine, that's kind of bullshit. I was gonna make this video regardless. It's really more of a happy coincidence that I'm taking advantage of. So, you know, man, just go with it. Come on. So there's gonna be a slight change in the way that this video is done as opposed to part 2. I'm using pics that people put in comments in both videos, but unlike last time where I was able to credit all the commenters because there were only a couple of comments, this time I got so many comments with so many different people wanting me to cover so many different characters that I can't credit everybody. There are characters I'm gonna cover in this video that were requested by over a dozen people, and I don't know how much over a dozen because I didn't count all of them, but many people have been requesting the same characters, so it would be kind of hard for me to properly credit who came up with what. But just know that this video is still covering characters that were recommended by commenters, as will all future videos, because I do intend on making a part 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. I have created a long list of characters that were recommended, and I do eventually plan on getting to all of them. So if you have more characters that you want to see in future videos, keep commenting, and I will keep making these videos as long as I have characters to do them up. All right, I think that's it. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Let's get started. The first on this list is actually not a single character, but like an entire series, because there's just so many girls from the series to choose from. And that would be Danger Girls! Oh shit, I just referenced Danger Girls by referencing Archer, who was referencing Top Gun. I don't even know what the fuck to call that. That's like a double Inception reference. Let me ask you something. Do you like James Bond? Do you like Charlie's Angels? Not the last one, but like, you know, the good ones? Then you're gonna fucking love Danger Girl. The series is about a team called, Danger Girls. And I feel like I kind of gave you all the description you need by saying it's James Bond meets Charlie's Angels, but you know, I guess I'll explain some more and do my job and shit. So the concept is pretty simple. An extremely talented, handsome, and rich man decides to form a team of incredibly skilled women to go out and solve all kinds of crazy espionage shit. Also, as a fun fact, the rich benefactor that runs the team is heavily implied to be Sean Connery's James Bond. So, you know, that's kind of cool. All three have vastly different backgrounds and skills. One might be a demolitions expert, while the other one is a computer hacker, and another one is a stealth expert, and so on and so on. You might get a Danger Girl who worked for the KGB and is a master of seduction and manipulation. Or get another one who's a master assassin, uses a bow and arrow, and really knows how to survive in the wilderness and shit like that. The series generally has a really good team makeup, and the way all the different characters with all their conflicting personalities and ideologies bouncing off each other makes for a pretty entertaining read. The biggest selling point for most people is the fact that it is basically a James Bond movie turned into a comic. The James Bond inspirations bleed through this comic in just about every single page. Everything from the storylines to the villains to the main characters all seem like things that could and would exist within the James Bond world. It does a really good job of riding that fine line of being inspired by, but not just constantly referencing James Bond. Like, it doesn't feel like a parody. And the tone matches that pretty well. It never gets as serious as like Casino Royale, and it never gets as ridiculous as some of the older James Bond movies, but it most of the time rides that fine line in between where it's serious enough that you can take it seriously while being just cheesy enough to bring you back to those good old James Bond days. The other main selling point, and really the reason why I haven't actually said any names in this video, is because a lot of the characters don't really stay around that long. I'm not gonna say it's something like Attack on Titan where there's just a revolving door of dead characters, but things do happen to the characters, and the roster of 3 women who are on the Danger Girls do swap out from time to time. Like I said, it is taken pretty serious when it needs to be, and characters in this series will die. You'll find out that a character might be a double agent or a sleeper agent. Without spoiling, there's serious shit that happens to members on the team that make them have to leave. I know this is vague. I'm really trying not to spoil this for people who want to actually read it, but if any of this sounds interesting to you, or you like what you see, feel free to pick up the first couple issues and try it out. It's not half bad. And next up we have Bomb Queen. And I gotta say, this is the coolest one conceptually on this whole list. Like, if I was sitting in an office and I got to pick which one of these comics came out and you pitched all 4 of them to me, this is definitely the first one I would pick to go into production. It's just the most interesting one on paper. So Bomb Queen is a supervillain who's on a team of 4 other supervillains, female supervillains, all with the queen in their name, and they all have some sort of theme to go along with them. Bomb Queens being like bombs and anarchy and shit. Anyway, they eventually succeed in wiping out every superhero in the entire city and basically taking it over. Once the city's taken over, they split it up into 4 sections, and each of the queens take over each one of these sections. This doesn't last very long, and they all go to war, and then Bomb Queen kills the other 3 and basically takes over the whole city. She becomes the literal queen over this whole city and basically creates her own government structure and empire within this city. And that's where the series starts. Yeah, all that shit I just described would be cool to see like in comic form, but it's really just backstory. The series is really about Bomb Queen ruling over her new empire after she had wiped out all the heroes and took control. It's essentially the plot of Megamind before Megamind ever existed. Now, by itself, that's a very cool start to a series, but the selling point doesn't stop there. You see, all this backstory and the characters and the universe, it's all created for the purpose of just creating satire of American politics. I mean, not just politics, basically the social, economic, and political structure of America. That's the comic's entire purpose for existing. And this is done with various levels of success. Sometimes it's pretty decent and they actually have some interesting things to say, while other times the satire is ruined by having the subtlety of Bomb Queen herself. Which brings me to the next point. I don't really like Bomb Queen as a character. I kind of put her in a similar group that I would put someone like Tank Girl. She's just not really a character. She's like a symbol for chaos and anarchy. She doesn't have really deep or compelling thoughts or ideas. She's just a completely irredeemable character who does whatever she wants whenever she wants to, and she exists for the sole purpose of being satire for whatever the series needs her to be satire for. I would compare her to someone like Deadpool, but I really can't, because Deadpool in the comics is actually a fully fleshed out three-dimensional character with depth. Bomb Queen really isn't. She pretty much always does what you think she's gonna do, which is the most chaotic thing she can possibly do. On top of that, she's never challenged, neither physically or mentally. She's always in control of every situation that happens. She constantly outsmarts every person she comes across. She never questions herself. As I said in part 2 with Tank Girl, she's basically a cartoon character. I just can't devote myself to a series where nothing ever changes and it's all just about satire. If I'm gonna read a story long term, it has to have a three-dimensional character with depth who will grow over time and evolve as the story goes on. That ain't Bomb Queen. It's a bunch of one-shot stories that are satires of different aspects of American culture, and that's about it. Now, if you don't care about that sort of stuff and you're perfectly okay with reading a story about a character that never changes and isn't really much of a character, this might be for you. Next is Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, and she's fucking Tarzan. She's not fucking Tarzan. Like, she's not having sex with Tarzan. I'm saying that she's fucking Tarzan. Like, she's a Tarzan with tits. She's a female Tarzan. Well, sort of. We're gonna get into it. So when Sheena was a little girl, her father, who was kind of an adventurer, brought her to Africa to go on like a safari, and her father gets killed, and she's basically left orphaned in the middle of Africa and has to learn to survive and shit. And that's it. That's her entire origin. It's pretty straightforward. It's Tarzan. She eventually becomes considered Queen of the Jungle, and her storylines are basically like classic adventure tales. You'll find everything from wild animals to giant insects to dinosaurs to witch doctors to vampires and all kinds of crazy shit that pop up in her jungle. If you like classic adventure series like the type of stuff that inspired Star Wars or Indiana Jones, you'll probably like this. And fun fact number 2, Sheena has the distinct honor of being the first female character to ever get her own solo run, even before Wonder Woman. That's fucking impressive. And just solely due to how old the character is, she has a lot of comics to read through. So if you really want to deep dive into a character series, she's a good pick, because, you know, there's like a lot to read. This bitch came out in the 40s. Now, it should be noted that this is not all one continuous story. There were quite a few reboots. Like, at some point, a bunch of hippies got their panties all twisted because Sheena, a white woman, became the queen of an African jungle, and they didn't like that shit, so they moved her to South America, because apparently it's a white savior story if she's in Africa with black people, but not if she's in South America with Hispanic people. People are fucking stupid, man. And last on the list, we have She. So Anna was a daughter of a warrior monk and a Catholic missionary. One day, her father is murdered by the Yakuza, and she picks up a sword and vows to claim vengeance for the death of her father. It really likes to take massive deep dives in Japanese mythology. Anna paints her face white to replicate some Japanese spirit thing that I can't pronounce. It translates to Tiger of Death. This is where she gets the name She. It's like the last part of the thing I can't pronounce. So the thing that makes this character so interesting is her dual identity. Not the fact that she's half Japanese, half American. I'm not talking about that. You see, her parents were kind of an opposites attract sort of situation, and they made this bafflingly crazy decision to raise their daughter under both of their ideologies, despite the fact that these two ideologies are not compatible whatsoever. Her father was a very spiritual warrior monk who taught her in the ways of his monkness, while her mother was a devout Catholic missionary and taught her about Catholicism. These two extremely conflicting ideologies, both existing within one person, is kind of what makes her character. On one hand, according to her father's belief systems, she's supposed to avenge him him for the honor of her family. But by her mother's ideology, murder is wrong and you shouldn't be doing that shit. So our character goes through the entire series being extremely conflicted about what to do next. It's kind of similar to the whole Matt Murdock, I'm a bad Catholic situation. You know, where Matt Murdock constantly has to question whether or not to kill a dude, even though he's not supposed to kill a dude because he's Catholic. But unlike Matt Murdock, where his whole thing is to either be a good Catholic and follow the tenets of your religion, or be a bad Catholic and don't, she was taught two different tenets to two wildly different belief systems. So a lot of her characters, her deciding which one to go with. Not only does this make a pretty interesting character just in general, but they also use her character to explore the differences between these two wildly different belief systems from two very different cultures. And at times you can argue that it actually makes Anna a more interesting character than Matt Murdock, because Matt Murdock is just a Catholic who constantly betrays his own belief systems. The thing that he always claims that he's devoted his entire life to, he is constantly betraying and going against the tenets of those beliefs. But when Anna does it, it's a little bit different, because on one hand, she believes truly in her heart that she is a devout Catholic. But if she follows the tenets of her Catholic belief, she's dishonoring her father and what he would have wanted for her. This creates very compelling drama that just doesn't exist for someone like Matt Murdock. If you've seen my Castlevania Hellboy videos, you know exactly how I feel about fictional tellings of Catholic characters. Generally, my thoughts are they're really fucking bad. But I can honestly say that she tries a lot harder than most of those series to get those belief systems right, which is a very rare thing in American writing, period. So that's going to be all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the video. People aren't lying to you. That actually does help the channel grow. And guess what? My channel's got a motherfucking membership. So, you know, check that shit out too. Did you know that if you're a part of a membership, your messages come directly to me so I can read every single one of them and respond in kind? We'll be like best buds. We'll be like pen pals. So that's like, you know, cool shit. But regardless, always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?